good-paying jobs in various industries throughout the Inland Empire. If you want a pathway to a high-paying job and the respect that comes with a union contract, visit 1932trainingcenter.org to enroll today. That's 1932trainingcenter.org.
KCAA Loma Linda. The Legacy KCAA 1050 AM and Express 106.5 FM.
BC. Wall Street is poised to build on yesterday's gains today. Investors are betting that the banking crisis is in the rear view. And they scooped up tech shares yesterday. They're also weighing the latest read on U.S. economic growth. The economy remained resilient in the fourth quarter of last year with an annual growth rate of 2.6%, even with rising interest rates. GDP, gross domestic product, did fall from the third quarter. It was 3.2%. Slightly more people than expected applied for unemployment benefits last week at 198,000, but that's still well below the pre-pandemic normal. And the continuing claims number is so low, which suggests that as people do lose jobs, they start on unemployment but quickly drop it as they find new jobs. The March employment report will be out a week from tomorrow, Good Friday. That's a day when the financial markets are closed. Jessica Ettinger, CNBC.
Are you the parent?
Located in the heart of San Bernardino, California, the Teamsters Local 1932 Training Center is designed to train workers for high-demand, good-paying jobs in various industries throughout the Inland Empire. If you want a pathway to a high-paying job and the respect that comes with a union contract, visit 1932trainingcenter.org to enroll today. That's 1932trainingcenter.org. One of the best ways to build a healthier local economy is by shopping locally. Teamster Advantage is a shop local program started by Teamster Local 1932 that has brought together hundreds of locally owned businesses to provide discounts for residents who make shopping locally their priority. Everything from restaurants like Corky's to fun times at SB Raceway and much, much more. If you're not currently a Teamster and you want access to these local business discounts, contact Jennifer at 909-889-8377, extension 224. Give her a call. That number again is 909-889-8377, extension 224.
Labor unions built the middle class, and the middle class built America. That's the message from Teamsters Local 1932, a strong and successful labor union based in San Bernardino that represents over 14,000 hardworking people across the Inland Empire. The Teamsters are ready to help you organize for better pay, increased benefits, and improved working conditions. Reach out to Teamsters 1932 at teamsters1932.org/organize to speak with an organizer today. Are you underpaid and overworked? Is a living wage and employee benefits like affordable health care more of a dream than a reality for you and your family? If so, it's time to form a union. Don't be denied the wages and benefits you deserve. Come together in a union with the power of numbers. A union is not a privilege, it's your right, and it will make a difference. Contact Teamsters Local 1932, a powerful and successful labor union in San Bernardino, by visiting teamsters1932.org/organize to start today.
Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. Let's start off with the entire media landscape duped again. Lucy, otherwise known as Donald Trump, give him credit. You know, the spaghetti theory works. Throw enough you-know-what against the wall, something's got to stick. And the media bought it. They bought that he was going to be indicted. What was it, last Tuesday? I don't remember. It was a Tuesday. It was going to happen. It was going to happen. And everyone jumped on it. Oh, my goodness, they're going to indict him. I was of the mindset, I don't know, and I think it's the weakest of all the cases. Okay. Nice job, Donald. In fact, if you remembered, I said it's masterful of him. This is a stroke of media manipulation genius that he got everyone to jump at his beck and call. And it's sort of reminding me of 2015 again, starting to get that deja vu all over again feeling where our media just doesn't seem to learn. Doesn't seem to learn. And you go, Rick, what are you talking about? What did they get duped on? Remember, he was going to be indicted. Everyone's going, what's going to happen when he's indicted? There were panels and there were stories and there were people, all kinds of stuff. The story today is the Manhattan grand jury. Going to take a little break, a little tiny break, about a month. It wasn't a Tuesday. And again, as I said, you may remember me saying the leak was probably John Barron, Trump's alter ego communications flack, who leaked it to him because there's nothing there yet. So going to be off for a month. And you go, well, the narrative from the right is, see how much power Donald Trump has. See what we've done? We've made them run to the corners. You got to give the right, really, got to give them credit for when something sticks against the wall, when the you-know-what that they, like the monkey in the cage, when they throw it against the wall and it sticks, they know how to then make it explode. But there you go. Now, what's interesting to me is he's playing with fire, and he knows that this is, as Chris Christie says, he thrives in chaos. The most recent Quinnipiac poll that's just come out said 57% of Americans think that if he's charged criminally, it should disqualify him from running for president. It doesn't. But 57% say he should be disqualified. Not surprisingly, 88% of Democrats believe he should be disqualified. Flip side, not surprising, only 23% think he should as well. But 75% of Republicans think he should not be disqualified. So again, polar opposites. The independents, the folks in the middle, 55% of them think he should be disqualified. So kind of interesting. And again, we'll see how this plays out. As you know here, I don't jump at this stuff anymore. We went through 4 years of people coming on and telling us, he's going to resign any minute now. And me going, no, that's not going to happen. We went through Mueller's coming and this and that. And we'll see. I'm not going to hold my breath because I still think what has to happen is Trump has to stand for election. And he has to be beaten soundly at the ballot box. Because there are no ideas there, just grievance. If you listen to his spiels, it's all about him, it's all about grievance, it's all about, they stole from me. And I think people are tired of that. Look, we're coming out of the pandemic, problems are real, and the question is who's going to move to fix them? And this is where I think Biden has done a really good job. We're moving in a direction, bringing back manufacturing, investing in infrastructure. There's a lot of good stuff going on. You just wouldn't hear it from the F channel and the right-wing outrage machine because that doesn't sell. Sorry, it doesn't sell. Now today, the big story for me was Bernie Sanders, the chairman of the Health, Education, Labor, and Pension Committee, Health. He held a hearing, and it was focused at Howard Schultz and the abuses, the alleged abuses, and the documented abuses at Starbucks. And, I liked how Bernie began the hearing by saying, look, the country's struggling. Workers are struggling. When 60% of the country is living paycheck to paycheck, hand to mouth, where we know that a large segment of people who miss 2 paychecks, chaos ensues. When you have a 1% who's so wealthy, Howard Schultz being one of them, that 1% of the people in this country own 90%, own more wealth than 90% of us. They own 90% of the wealth. It's insane that they own as much as 90%. Think about that. 1% of the people own as much as 90% of us. When 3 people, just 3, just people driving around in a small car, own more than half the wealth in this country, there's a problem. There's a problem. And the problem is distribution of wealth. We're the wealthiest country in the history of civilization at its wealthiest moment. Everyone agrees on that. It's one of those few little things that everyone goes, yeah, we're a wealthy country. And yet we've got working people who are struggling to make ends meet. We got people who are working in not great conditions. And as you've heard me say on this program 1,000 times, times 1,000 times, the way you improve conditions, you organize. Unions fight for better wages, hours, conditions. That's simple. The better chance you have to sit down and negotiate with the boss, the better outcomes you're going to have, because we know across the board, union workers do better, have upwards of 20% higher wages, have much better access to health insurance and company-paid health insurance, better access to pensions, and more importantly to me is, the economic stuff aside, safety on the job. We know that in states that don't have high union densities, injuries happen, deaths happen. And, anybody held accountable? No. And in this moment, and this is the important part, the most recent polling on this is 71% of the country approves of labor unions. The highest point in my lifetime, the highest approval rating since the mid-'60s, when my grandparents' generation were in the heart of their work lives. The generation who came back from fighting fascism overseas to come back here to the shop floor and fight for those better wages, hours, conditions. That generation after generation has thought, hey, we're going to hand this off to our kids. Well, we're the first generation. Right now, they're thinking, this next generation is going to be the first one that doesn't do as well as their parents. And as Bernie was saying today, it's unacceptable. We can do better. He went through and he pointed out how Starbucks and Howard Schultz, because Schultz was brought in when all of this unionization stuff was going on. He was brought in to bust it up. Interim basis, he's going to come back in and, I think the original thought was he was just going to say how wonderful they are. And people would go, oh, yeah, you're wonderful. We remember. No, these workers had real grievances. These workers have real problems with scheduling, with treatment, with, you name it, with wages. Look, this is a multi-billion-dollar corporation. And now Howard Schultz did what he had to do today. He went in and he talked about, this is for what the work, we pay good, and we have all these benefits, and that's great. All employers should do that. I'm thrilled with it. But that doesn't mean that the workers who provide the labor that creates the wealth shouldn't have some say in it. What I did find interesting is Bernie went through all of the charges against Starbucks. The hundreds of charges over firing workers and breaking the law. And interestingly enough, you had Howard Schultz saying, we didn't break the law. It's kind of an I believe thing. And my mind went to, that's kind of perjury. When the administrative law judge says the conditions and the egregious and widespread misconduct, a general disregard for employees' fundamental rights, they're guilty of illegally retaliating against people. They fired workers for organizing and had to bring them back, but we didn't break anything. They do it with all kinds of surveillance and promising higher wages and better benefits if they just choose, just don't get the union and we'll give you more. There are all these lists of things, and yet Howard Schultz, no, we did nothing wrong. And again, you look at this situation, and my favorite moment was he was talking about how the union workers had a higher turnover rate. And this was one of those things where I'm going, because Romney was questioning him. And I love when a rich guy talks to another rich guy and just can't believe that anyone would question the benevolence of the rich guy. And he actually made a joke about Schultz, because Schultz was a Democratic candidate for president back in 2012 for a short period of time. And Starbucks is kind of looked at as a liberal company. I pushed back on that vigorously. But, he kind of make a joke out of it. You're supposed to be one of them, and you're supposed to be hyper liberal, and look where you are now. And then, went to his defense, as a rich guy would do. And in that spiel, Schultz basically told this story about how turnover rates in these union stores are higher than in the non-union stores. And you go, could it be the constant harassment? Could it be that you're firing workers in retaliation? Could it be the kind of conditions that you, the employer, are creating in this place? to where if you just followed the law that my grandparents' generation had, people vote, people sit down and they negotiate a contract. They sign the contract. But Starbucks is doing everything they can do to ensure that that never happens. And this again is what, it's not just Starbucks. It's all these companies. They know that they have the power. And I've said before, if you're a union buster, if your job is to advise these companies like Starbucks on how to not allow the union to come in, how to bust it up, I'm firing people. I'm breaking all the rules because there are no real penalties there. It would be malpractice to not say that. That's how badly screwed up our laws are. And, this is just another one of those moments. Now, Sanders corners him and says, hey, will you make a promise to this committee that you'll exchange proposals with the union so that you can begin to make meaningful progress? I mean, just say, look, we sit down and negotiate. We do what the law says. And Schultz says, on a single store basis, we'll continue to negotiate in good faith. Well, there's been no evidence that they're doing anything in good faith. But I found the interesting language on a single store basis, because what they know is they're such a big company, as long as they can keep everybody divided and eating each other and pitted against each other, they can slow the process down. And that's really what this is about. This is about slowing the process down and then frustrating workers, creating hostile work environments. And I got to come back to, this is another reason why we need to have major comprehensive labor law reform. Because even the Republicans on the Senate committee are like, it's the law of the land. Workers should be able to organize. We support that. We support the workers who want to join unions. But we're really in favor of allowing corporate America to avoid it at all costs. And I found it interesting. Now Schultz came in, did his job, and he did it well. He painted a rosy picture, talked about how wonderful Starbucks is, all the great perks and all this stuff, and I'm going, that's fabulous. But your workers want to organize. They want their federal right to collectively bargain because they believe that their labor is worth more than what you are giving them. And this is where the benevolent dictator got kind of unhappy. And this is what happens in all of these situations where we're not giving you enough? How dare you ask for more? That profit is ours. Now, what I found interesting, again, when they brought Schultz in, guy understands messaging. He ran for president. The first thing that he did as the interim CEO is he stopped the stock buybacks. And understand, Starbucks back in I guess it was 2019 had authorized a massive stock, some 40 million shares, like billions, like $12 billion in stock buybacks. I mean, just an enormous sum. And you go, wait a minute, you mean the profits that you just claimed that you put back into the business? Because they did a great job of saying, look, since the union organizing campaign came on, we're giving out all these benefits like crazy. And you go, yeah, that's exactly what happens in a union organizing campaign. That's what the unions wanted. Now, Schultz said they stopped it. We cut that off. We were not going to do it because he understands what it looks like. It's bad messaging for them. But for me, it was interesting to watch the Democrats who are fighting for working people and the Republicans who are fighting for the billionaire. That was on display front and center. And as working people, the point of all this, as working people, again, it's which side are you on? Are you on the side of the people who are going to fight to ensure that you can put a roof over your head, put food on the table in front of your kids, get reasonable health security, retirement security, the things that our labor are supposed to bring us? That's the question. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Going to take a quick break. Right back after this. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show.
We are are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
The phone lines are open. Give Rick a call at 1-866-416-RICK. That's 1-866-416-7425. Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So I go back to this. The sad reality of the place that we're in is that a lot of our elected officials, they don't care. You looked at some of those Republicans on the dais, and they didn't care. They don't care about working people. They cared about their rich guy. And it's about defending rich guys at all costs. The benevolent. And you heard that coming out in a lot of the questioning and a lot of the pointed statements. Rand Paul saying, I'm not going to be part of going after a good capitalist. It's one of those, which side are you on? And look, our elected officials don't fear us. And I got an email from John yesterday who said, many of these extremist politicians don't care about the consequences because they see no consequences. Like in Wisconsin, he writes, they're so gerrymandered in place that they don't care whether the young people vote for them or not. They've chosen their voters to the point where they are going to be voted in regardless, and elections in those states have become shams. They get back into office regardless what they do or don't do. And again, this was on display, front and center. And understand how the right has built this. You go back to the Powell memo back in '71. Lewis Powell, the soon-to-be Supreme Court Justice, wrote a treatise on how to save free enterprise, funded by the Chamber of Commerce and the Mitt Romneys and the Howard Schultzes of the time. And it was all about how to get the working class to turn against labor unions, how to get the working class to turn against each other and save corporate benevolence. It's really what it was about. And they spent money on universities, they spent money on spokespeople, but they spent a lot of money on media, on cable news, on talk radio, tons of it. Because they knew if they could spew, to use the George Bush frame, if they could catapult the propaganda, we'd buy into it. And you see this constantly. For instance, there was a story that, this Fox News CEO, Suzanne Scott, evidently she claims that she sounded the alarm about the company's, problem, their financial problem, should they continue to fact check things that Donald Trump says. And it's one of these things where you go, yeah, we knew that. Fake news is all about making money. It's not about, helping working people get good information. It's about getting people's eyeballs on the screen and angry. And of course, buying widgets and whatnots from them. And doing the bidding of the wealth class. I go back to that Powell memo and how important that was. This idea that in order to save free enterprise, they had to tear everything else down. This idea that capitalism above all. And my problem with this is, when you get into any of these binary arguments, it's either capitalism or socialism. We've never been either or, and we're never going to be either or. But they love throwing that out. Because if you're not 100% on the side of the capitalists, i.e. Howard Schultz, then you must be one of those commies. And that's not reality. But that's the binary choice that they throw us into, isn't it? And that's how they pit us against each other, because I'm sort of a capitalist. And then they get the people who go, no, I think we should have social programs. Now you're socialist, because I think we should have Social Security. I think we should have a single-payer health insurance program. I don't care if it's private or public. I think we should have one giant insurance pool. Everybody pays into it, and you have it from cradle to grave. That's socialism. No, that's just smart. But that's how they pit us against each other. We can't do smart things because they label it these extremes. Just like this with Howard Schultz. You know, is this a decent company? Sure, I'm sure it is. I'm sure they've done some really good things to help attract people and get them to stay and want to work there. Sure that. But that doesn't mean that they can break the law. If the workers in this country want to join informed unions, it is the law of the land. Now, I found interesting that you had some people going, well, the NLRB was encouraging workers to join informed unions. The government's responsibility is to encourage people to join informed unions. That was the National Labor Relations Act. That was the peace treaty that was signed back in the 30s because workers were literally tearing this country apart because they wanted better wages, hours, and conditions. The whole idea of the NLRA was to put some foundation, some groundwork down, and to encourage workers and companies to negotiate, to encourage in the workplace collective bargaining, peace, a truce, so that if there's profit to be had, the profit is shared. If the company struggles, if Starbucks was losing money, do you not think that they would be coming to the employees, cutting their wages and benefits? Of course they would. They'd be doing it unilaterally. See, this is the reason they don't want to join a union. Because they want to be able to do whatever they want, whenever they want, to whoever they want, however they want, without any explanation or rational thought whatsoever. And what unions give people is the opportunity to go, no, we want to know why. We want to share in the profits that our labor brings. We want to have a say in the workplace where we spend a third of our lives. We want to have some empowerment to do the right thing and not do unsafe things. We want to be able to stand up when things are wrong. Corporations don't want that. They say they do. Oh, they've got suggestion boxes, and we've got an open door policy. And yet, interestingly enough, when a lot of workers go to use that open door, it's usually slammed on the way out. And this is where, in this moment, I'm hoping that working people see what's going on. We are in a which side are you on moment. And I've heard so many horror stories. Well, this, I've heard. Look, I've been a union member for 34 years. There's some good, some bad, some indifferent. But at the end of the day, that contract in writing. And it's in writing for a reason. It lays out all of the terms and conditions. There's no gray area. That's what we should be pushing for. I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. We'll take a quick break. Right back after this. Stick around. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1937. That was the day the U.S. Supreme Court issued its ruling on the case West Coast Hotel versus Parrish. The ruling upheld a progressive-era Washington state law that established minimum wages for women. An example of protective legislation, it intended to guard health, safety, and morals of women workers. Elsie Parrish had been a chambermaid at the Cascadian Hotel in Wenatchee, Washington until 1935. She sued and won at the state level after she was paid far below the state's minimum wage. The parent company, West Coast Hotel, appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court. They argued the progressive-era law violated the constitutional right of individuals to freely contract with one another. This interpretation was common during the court's Lochner era. The 1905 Lochner v. New York ruling against maximum hours for bakers ushered in a period of anti-labor Supreme Court rulings. Parrish is considered the landmark case that brought an end to that era. The court argued that the Constitution does not speak of freedom of contract and added, quote, the exploitation of a class of workers who are in an unequal position with respect to bargaining power is not only detrimental to their health and well-being, but casts a direct burden for their support upon the community. What these workers lose in wages, the taxpayers are called upon to pay. The case is also considered instrumental in the switch in time to save nine. It was a reference to Justice Owen Roberts' surprising shift in favor of Parrish. This occurred just as President Roosevelt finalized plans to increase the number of Supreme Court justices to 15. Though Parrish did not overturn Lochner, it did mark a period of pro-labor rulings. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com, like us on Facebook, and follow us on the Twitters at Labor History in 2.
Until recently, kids were thrilled when their parents said, "We're going to Disney World." But that was in the before times, before Florida's autocratic governor put Disney World under the control of his state's thought police, turning it into DeSantis World. Having made kid-friendly Disney kowtow to his own magic kingdom of right-wing ideological conformity, Governor Ron is now demanding that the entire Sunshine State convert to the darkness of DeSantis World. A major tactic in his push is to rewrite the state's school books to, quote, protect young ones from having to learn that such historical unpleasantness as racism and sexism have shaped their society and are still doing so. To advance Ron Think, he has rammed his Stop Woke Act into law, requiring teachers to soften or just eliminate references to America's racial problems. Pretend it never happened is Professor DeSantis' instruction. Indeed, one educational publisher obediently followed his dictate by rewriting the uplifting 1955 story of Rosa Parks confronting the flagrant institutional racism of Montgomery, Alabama's public bus service. Before DeSantis, the publisher told the story straight. Quote, in her city, the law said African Americans had to give up their seats if a white person wanted to sit down. Parks would not give up her seat. The police came and took her to jail. Now, after desantification, here's the publisher's rewrite. One day, Parks rode the bus. She was told to move to a different seat. She did not. She did what she believed was right. No reference to her even being African American or to the law requiring her to bow to any white person's demand for her seat. And no mention of police hauling her to jail because of the color of her skin. This is Jim Hightower saying, DeSantis World is where people's dream of social justice goes to die.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I thought it was an important hearing today Bernie Sanders had in the Health Committee. The Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee. Again, this is putting one of these billionaires on the spot and saying, hey, here's this billionaire worth all this money and making it off the backs of these workers who are simply just trying to get decent wages, hours, conditions, and some bit of a say. And to have him say, I think that they would be better off, I just found quite arrogant. But this is the world that we're in, and here to share some thoughts on today's hearing, I've asked our good friend Dave Jamieson to come talk with us. He's a labor reporter over at Huffington Post. His most recent piece, I love the title of, The Only Good Friends Howard Schultz Could Find in Washington Were Republicans. Dave, thanks for taking time for us.
Hey, Rick, good to be here.
I see you found that as interesting as I did. You had Mitt Romney, another rich guy, helping out another rich guy. You had Rand Paul, I'm not going to be part of taking down a capitalist, indignant. And yet, at the end of this, we're talking about a bunch of workers who are just trying to live the American dream, trying to work hard, play by the rules, and get ahead. And you got this billionaire going, nope, I know better.
Yeah, you got to kind of step back to realize how significant the hearing was, just that it happened. There never used to be, whole hearings devoted to the idea of union busting. Bernie Sanders has put on a couple now, but this one was so unique in that he basically, used the threat of a subpoena to drag Howard Schultz in there and have one of the more famous CEOs in the country on the stand, out there fielding tough questions about the way they've combated this union campaign. And, I was down there for it. And if you were watching on C-SPAN, one thing you couldn't see was how many workers were actually there in the committee room. And I got there at 9 a.m. and it was much more of a zoo than I was expecting. I was there an hour ahead of time. and there was just lines going all the way down the hallway of people trying to get into this. Many Starbucks workers who came in from all over the place, a lot from the region, but a lot from more far-flung places as well. And there was quite a few folks from corporate there. I think they were managers who came in from stores, who were there literally on the other side, across from the workers in the hearing room. So it was a very interesting dynamic.
No, and look, I saw some of the pictures on Twitter and on social media because this is a big deal. I've been saying this is kind of a which side are you on moment. This is, and it was played out right in front of us beautifully. And, as I say to people, Republicans hate working people. Look at their policies. Look at this hearing. Look at who they dug in to support, a billionaire over the working people who made him that money.
Yeah, it was very interesting to see the political dynamics here. I wrote a story because I thought it was funny to see, Republicans trying to throw a life raft to, a guy who, flirted with running for president as a Democrat or an independent, and Starbucks being this kind of like famously, liberal progressive company. And a lot of the Republicans, they started out by saying, I'm not here to defend you or Starbucks, but that's literally what they did. They were trying to, sort of blunt the attacks of the Democrats. And I think it was, you also have to acknowledge the shift we've seen in the Democratic Party to see, them holding a hearing at all about, focusing on the idea of union busting, but also, focusing on Starbucks and Howard Schultz. Howard Schultz has been friendly with Democrats for many years now, and one of the people throwing questions at him was Senator Patty Murray of Washington. Starbucks is based in Seattle. And Schultz at one point, I don't exactly remember what he said, but he basically said he was disappointed to see Murray saying critical things to him in this very public forum. So there were some very interesting political dynamics at play.
Yeah, so we can expect Schultz to be spending a lot of money on whoever runs against Patty Murray, and that took a little bit of courage. And I saw that, and I was like, wow, good on you. It's about time. And I think again, the big part of this is I think you got a president in Joe Biden who has fully embraced people's right to join and form unions, and Bernie Sanders has got a huge. I keep coming back to this. This hearing was because of Sanders, because he pushed this and he demanded it, and I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, it's funny that I think back to when I remember some liberals when Bernie Sanders was being floated as labor secretary, and I thought that was kind of crazy with him maybe being in line to run the help committee, and I think this is why those folks really should have wanted to see Bernie Sanders in this role helming the committee, because he'd be willing to hold aggressive hearings like this and threaten subpoena on somebody like Howard Schultz, which I think really probably no one else in the chamber would be willing to do, frankly. Maybe one or two others, but probably none.
And this is why you need a Bernie Sanders. You need someone who's going to be pushing this issue and forcing Democrats, because you just said it, a lot of Democrats, who knows, forcing them to take this position and do it very publicly. I'm not saying anything bad about Tina Smith, but she had a great line today too, that Starbucks doesn't need a union because you think Starbucks doesn't need a union because you're a good company. That's not your decision to make. I don't think people like Schultz are used to having someone saying, no, that's not your decision to make, which I found really important.
Yeah, and there was a funny moment where Mitt Romney said that he could understand why some employers wouldn't want to unionize, and it's not up to them, actually. It's supposed to be up to the workers, and so there was this very I think on the Republican side. There was a lot of talk of job creators, and why are we having this meeting? These Democrats have never created any jobs. But obviously that was not the point. This was to highlight a lot of workers who tried to unionize, and according to a lot of NLRB complaints and some rulings that we're starting to see now, they were retaliated against. And that was another facet of this hearing that really interested me was Howard Schultz. He continued over and over again calling these, just allegations. These are just allegations. But look, a lot of this is being litigated, and we're having decisions now from administrative law judges. One just came down a couple of weeks ago saying, in Buffalo, widespread and egregious violations of law. And so we're going to have more and more decisions coming down. So we're sort of getting past these are allegation stages, and we're getting into the findings stages. And the board's going to have more rulings coming down as well. So I think Starbucks and Schultz just writing this off as people lobbing allegations. The time is running out on that.
No, I had somebody email me today and go, is this perjury? Did he just commit perjury? And I'm going, well, not in his mind.
No, I think, I think sort of the rhetorical game they're playing is that so long as there's some degree of appeal they can make, and the judge issues a decision, well, we've appealed that to the board. The board's going to issue decisions against them. They're going to appeal that to federal court, and they're going to sort of, string this along as far as they can, saying these are just allegations. But, at a certain point, it's just rhetorical. I mean, these are... When a judge at the NLRB holds a hearing, they have witnesses from both sides come in, right? There is a hearing that happens, and this is a neutral party making a determination of what happened, and that's what we're starting to see now.
Yeah. Listen to the Rick Smith Show. We're here with Dave Jamieson. Dave's a labor reporter over at Huffington Post, huffpost.com, the website. You can check out the work he does there. His most recent piece, The Only Good Friends Howard Schultz Could Find in Washington Were Republicans. And if you watch the hearing, that is an accurate headline. But watching this hearing and watching the back and forth, the thing I came away with is just how broken our labor laws are and how we absolutely need massive labor law reform. Because, my grandparents' generation, when they voted to have a union, there was no, we're going to have a 3-month-long, browbeating session, and we're going to get away with firing people and all the stuff that happens today. They came in with cards. The cards were recognized. They began negotiating. If they didn't get a contract, they went on strike. There were these things that happened that today just get drawn out. And as you said earlier, Schultz is just going to just play this out as long as they can to run out the clock, hopefully for a new NLRB in several years, and the workers are going to be left screwed. We need major comprehensive labor law reform. That's what I got out of this.
Yeah, the legal process takes a really long time for all of this. When a workers say a company's broken the law, maybe fired union supporters just because of their union support, that stuff takes years to litigate. And sometimes the board, and they have done this in some cases with Starbucks, they will go to federal court and try to get an injunction. And it's a big deal, try to get them sort of back on the job in a preliminary way. And that happens sometimes, but in general, there might be a finding that you were illegally fired, and 5 years go by, and you're, at that point you've moved on. You got to pay the bills. Maybe there's a settlement. Maybe they owe you back pay, but they subtract whatever money you've made in the meantime. And so the penalties for breaking the law are pretty meager, and that's to say nothing of the bargaining process. All this, time is really to the advantage of the employer. We're now well past a year when the first Starbucks store is unionized. They don't have a contract, and sort of both sides are making claims of bad faith bargaining. But it can take years to get that first contract, and a lot of employers want to wait it out. They know turnover is high especially in retail and food service. That if you can wait a long time, you got to get a new crop of workers in there. Maybe they're unfamiliar with the union, they're not as supportive. Maybe you can get a decertification campaign going. And by the way, Howard Schultz, he wrote about this in his memoir, how out in Seattle, those original Starbucks stores and the plant had UFCW representation. He encouraged the worker to get a decertification campaign going, and got the UFCW purged from those original work sites. So Howard Schultz, he's known the game for a long time. and he was upfront about how that played out back in Seattle many years ago. And so, companies know that there's a long game to be played here.
And not afraid to manipulate it. I mean, the fact that he came out and said, "Yeah, we give our non-union employers much better wages and all these other perks and these benefits and this stuff, because we know the law. We have to negotiate." And he knows what that's going to do. He knows the effect that will have on workers, and as all employers do. Which again, why our system is broken.
Yeah, it's Schultz. He got a lot of Sanders started off the hearing with a series of yes/no questions, and Schultz denied sort of being involved or knowing about particular decisions about firing people, closing stores, this and that. But one thing. He was asked was, did you ever threaten or coerce any employees? And he didn't directly say no. What he said was basically, well, some people may have interpreted something I said a certain way.
Yeah, like, hey, Dave, you got a mighty nice house there. Yeah,
it was a very
they're pretty. They got pretty faces.
It was a very, very interesting exchange.
It was that indeed. And I also found his answer to the question that Sanders asked that's getting a lot of play right now is whether Schultz would promise the committee that he would negotiate in good faith, exchange proposals, and do have meaningful progress. And Schultz's response was, on a single store basis, we will continue to negotiate in good faith. That was chosen. I mean, each one of those words were put there on purpose. I grabbed that. Did you find that as interesting as I did?
Yeah, and that's something the folks from Lidler or wherever would have anticipated a question like that and prepared him. But that is a big factor in this campaign and the negotiations is that legally speaking, every one of these stores that unionizes is its own distinct bargaining unit, and that is something that Starbucks has maintained from the beginning, that we are not going to negotiate any sort of, national framework, that all of these stores are on their own. And of course that makes it, a much more cumbersome, bargaining lift for the union. And it's sort of, it's on them to, even though they are technically bargaining different contracts, to act as one, huge union, right? And to really keep all of the unionized stores on board. And I think that's why, it's important for the union to keep adding stores to the union column. And that's, frankly, it stalled a bit for the union. That they've had a hard time hitting 300. There was a very sort of fast uptick, and it was very rapid last year, and things have slowed down. And I think part of that is the effects of Starbucks, frankly, pretty effective counter campaign. And the way they've tried to tamp this down, but growing the numbers is really important to having leverage at the bargaining table for everybody.
And the fact that they fired people and they've done all of the things that union busters do. And look, as I've said a number of times on the show, if you're a union buster, it's almost malpractice not to tell Starbucks to fire a bunch of people and break all the laws, because there really aren't any real penalties. Maybe, like you said, you pay a little back pay minus what the person earned, and then the dreaded notice. You're going to have to either post a notice, or in this case, Schultz said he wasn't going to read a notice, which I found interesting. Last question I've got for you: watching this, in your position as a labor reporter, is this going to play in public? Will this get attention? Does it matter, do you think?
I think it matters that happened. That Democrats are willing to hold a hearing like this now is notable. The hearing itself, I think it didn't, produce sort of the big moment that a lot of people might have hoped for or expected. Some sort of really viral Sanders-Schultz showdown. That didn't happen. But I think, having talked to with workers who were down there, I think there was satisfaction in the fact that Schultz had to publicly answer for a lot of this, right? And frankly, he didn't want to. They Starbucks did not want Schultz to have. This guy's supposed to be winding down his career and stepping away in glory, and they did not want him to have to go publicly on the Hill to to take these sorts of questions. And it was Sanders' subpoena threat that made it happen. So I think the fact that it happened is very significant for the labor movement, for unions, and sort of the leverage they have now and the power they've exerted on the Democratic Party.
No, and that's a good point, Dave. I appreciate the time. As always, great stuff. I hope folks will check out the website, HuffPost.com. Check out Dave's article. The only good friends Howard Schultz could find in Washington were Republicans. We'll get links out on social media. Dave Jamieson, thanks so much.
Good talking with you, Rick.
As always, our good friend. Again, make sure you check out their website, HuffPost.com. We'll take a quick break. Right back with your thoughts. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. More working people come to talk.
The phone lines are open. Give Rick a call at 1-866-416-RICK. That's 1-866-416-7425.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1948. That was the day that the labor movement came literally to the doorstep of Wall Street. The United Financial Employees Union went out on strike. The union was started in 1941 by Merritt David Keefe, a page who had worked on the stock exchange trading floor. Keefe had grown up too poor to finish high school. He had gone to Wall Street in the hope of finding wealth and financial security. Instead, he found long hours and low-paying work. He decided the only way to change things was to form a union. By 1946, the union had grown to 5,000 members. Keefe described their platform, calling for a general overall minimum increase of 25% in the salaries of Wall Street employees, job security, benefits of a pension fund, and, in addition, a bonus computed on the volume of trading. Negotiations drug on. Finally, 1,100 union members walked out on strike against both the New York Stock Exchange and the New York Curb Exchange. 500 members of the Seafarers Union supported the exchange workers' cause. The first day of the strike was peaceful, but the next morning, the police told the strikers they could not picket the main entrance of the stock exchange. One 19-year-old woman refused to go across the street. The police reacted by grabbing her and arresting her. Outraged, the picketers rushed to her aid. Some attempted to lie down in the entrance to block the exchange. The police wielded batons, hospitalizing 2 strikers and arresting more than 40. Sadly, the strike ended in defeat in April, as 100 workers lost their jobs because of their involvement. The workers had lost the Battle of Wall Street, the first and only strike at the exchange. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show.
You're listening to The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.
So Tennessee Governor Bill Lee called for prayers. Because of what happened on the deadly shooting on Monday. Just prayers. Gonna have some prayers. There'll be plenty of time to talk about legislation down the road, but prayers. And I'm going, well, at least we got that. At least they got prayers. They're not going to do anything when you've got the congressman from Tennessee going, yeah, we're not going to fix it. Nah, nothing's going to get done. And I'm still stuck in this, my generation grew up, we're not going to take it. We're not going to take it. To now, I guess it's, nothing we can do about it. I do find, what I find about this shooting more interesting than others is that we're not even talking about the three 9-year-olds or the 3 staff members who were murdered. No, it's all about the shooter. And what I found interesting, and Judd Legum over at Popular Info, pointed this out, that Ben Shapiro's Daily Wire back in 2018 said that they were no longer going to publish the names or pictures of mass shooters. It's 2018. And I've said the same thing. I'm not going to name any murderer because I don't want people to go, I'm going to be famous. No. You're going to die in obscurity. And Daily Wire, they back in 18 said the same thing. Now, what's interesting is they just published the picture and the name of the shooter. Now, again, I don't believe anything the Daily Wire says anyway. I mean, it's all nonsense to me. But this is in their words. There was a story titled by Ben Shapiro on the Daily Wire's site explaining why they weren't going to do it. And he went into all of these excuses and all these reasons why they weren't going to do it. And they were good reasons. But this time, and what are we, 5 years away from this? It was February 19th, 2018, so over 5 years ago. Now they've broken it. And why? Well, because it's a trans person. Slap the picture all over the place. Because it's now about the trans issue. It wasn't about somebody who's with a gun who probably should have had a much harder time getting a gun because of a lot of mental health. No. It's now all about the trans stuff. And in fact, Kentucky Republicans just overrode a governor's veto in Kentucky to have one of the most outrageous bans on gender-affirming care in the country. And also restricting who can use bathrooms. We're back to the bathrooms again. And I'm like, this is just nuts. But, hey, this is their issue. Remember, the Republicans don't have any policies that are going to make lives better. It's all about how can we divide and tear people apart. And here's the weird thing. Good on Elon Musk. I'm going to congratulate Elon. They actually restricted Marjorie Taylor Greene's congressional Twitter account, just restricted it a little bit because she posted an image, shared an image of Trans Day of Vengeance. And again, promoting this kind of hatred, and it's nuts. Now, my hope is the younger generation, their heads are a little clearer, maybe wanting to solve problems because they have, at least for now, a future. I find it interesting that according to a Harvard Institute of Politics poll, 63% of young Americans want stricter gun laws. And the weird thing is you can't get the right to agree on this stuff. Interesting story. There was a protest out in front of the district attorney's office in Manhattan. Protesters are out there. A Trump supporter pulls a knife on a couple and their 2 kids. And do you know where my mind went? This is how screwed up things are right now. So a Trump supporter pulls a knife on these people who I guess bumped into them and an argument ensued or whatever, pulls this 6-inch blade on this couple. And my first thought was, if we're in conservative world, why doesn't that woman with the knife have 4 bullet holes in her? Why don't both parents and the kids all have, evidently we need more guns to keep us safe. And they got to be able to stand their ground. How come they didn't all shoot her? Because that's what conservative world brings us. Because remember, more guns are going to make us safe. More guns. We need more guns to keep us safe. Instead of going, think about what if this crazy woman with the knife had an AR-15 instead. Let your mind go there for a second. I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Quick break.
The tornadoes came at the most dangerous time possible, during the darkness of night.
Massive tornado system bulldozes path of destruction across Mississippi. Floods from historic California storms inundate farmland and impact food prices. Plus, renewable energy has hit a new global record.
All of those broken records and more straight ahead from BradBlog.com. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
What a glorious day we had here in New York City. It was 60 degrees. Climate change has its perks.
Oops, this is your Green News Report.
Yes, we're all going to die, but sweater weather.
Okay, Desi Doyen, well, this was one hell of a way to begin the tornado season this year.
Yes, sadly, a daunting recovery is ahead for Mississippi and Alabama after a series of powerful, deadly nighttime tornadoes bulldozed a path of destruction across both states over the weekend. President Biden has issued a federal disaster declaration for the hardest hit areas, which are among the poorest regions in the country. Overall, an estimated 27 tornadoes were reported in 5 states, causing widespread damage and power outages. The biggest was a massive, rare EF4 tornado that stayed on the ground for more than an hour, destroying the town of Rolling Fork, Mississippi, overnight on Friday, killing at least 21 people. Rolling Fork Mayor Eldridge Walker says his city is reeling.
And what we're doing now is assessing all the damage around, along with the volunteers from various counties that are here helping us to locate folk who are trapped in their homes.
This tornado, aside from being on the ground for an hour, was anywhere from 60 to 170 miles on the ground from various reports. This is a big one, and it's disturbing to see the tornado belt moving so far south and to the east.
Yes, and we'll get to more of that in a moment. More severe weather is forecast for the area. As for climate change, data on tornadoes is simply insufficient to conclusively connect tornado frequency or severity to human-caused climate change.
KCAA Loma Linda. The Legacy KCAA 1050 AM and Express 106.5 FM.
NBC News Radio, I'm Lisa Taylor.
What do we want? Gun control! What do we want? Now! What do we want? Gun control! What do we want? Now!
Parents and students are demanding stricter gun laws at Tennessee's state capitol. After the latest mass shooting at Nashville's Covenant School this week, hundreds of parents are joining community groups to urge legislators to act to stop future incidents from happening. Their goal is to protest before Tennessee's House floor session for common sense gun laws. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says legislation alone won't solve the issue of gun violence.
We've got to have a severe conversation here with this country. We've got to deal with mental illness.
He said the country needs to know what's driving people to shoot and kill innocent children. He sidestepped questions about whether he's open to a ban on assault rifles, a measure Democrats have continually called for. 3 children and 3 adults were killed at the private school on Monday. Kentucky's governor says he's grieving after 9 soldiers died when 2 Army Black Hawk helicopters crashed on a training mission. It happened near Fort Campbell last night during a planned training mission, and every soldier on board the helicopters died. All of the soldiers were with the 101st Airborne Division, and Governor Andy Beshear asked for everyone to pray for their families. More than 70% of doctors say COVID misinformation negatively impacted patients' health. In a poll by the De Beaumont Foundation and Morning Consult, 72% of physicians in the U.S. said misinformation has also made it harder to treat patients with COVID. Close to half of doctors surveyed also said most of the information that they see about COVID is incorrect, and more than 90% of the doctors agreed that COVID vaccines are safe and do work. U.S. insurance companies no longer need to provide certain preventative care services for free. A Texas judge decided those Affordable Care Act mandates can't be enforced nationwide. Today's opening day for the MLB, and a handful of rule changes are sure to affect how America's pastimes played this year. The most visible change is the new pitch clock, which affords pitchers just 15 seconds to deliver their next throw and 20 seconds with runners on base. You're listening to the latest on NBC News Radio.
1 in 5 California families spend more than 50% of their income on rent.
Come join Habitat for Humanity, famous for building decent, affordable homes, as we present a special fundraiser coming Thursday, March 23rd, starting at 5:30 p.m.
Make a difference. Stop by the Escape Brewery in Redlands. Escape Brewery at 721 Nevada Street. Habitat for Humanity San Bernardino area is raising money to build 7 brand new affordable homes in our area.
Come see the Sweet 16 NCAA playoffs on Escape's giant screen TV. Enjoy some delicious pizza, and for a modest donation, fill your Habitat branded pint glass with your favorite icy cold crafted beverage.
Take the opportunity to support Habitat and be a winner with door prizes, gift baskets, and raffles.
It's all for a great cause. Habitat for Humanity on March 23rd
at 5:30 p.m. in Redlands at the Escape Brewery. For more info, Google habitatsb.org. That's habitatsb.org.
The staff and families at Yard House of Temecula takes this time out to recognize and salute the local men and women in uniform standing tall for our political and economic freedom around the world. Let's always remember them in our thoughts and prayers. Their efforts abroad and our support has kept America strong. This message courtesy of your good friends at Yard House of Temecula at 40770 Winchester Road in Temecula. They are always working to keep our community moving in a positive direction.
breathlessly was reporting that Russia evidently...
Hi, I'm food critic. You're listening to the Tahibo Tea Club radio show, hosted by Milan Vukovic, founder of the Tahibo Tea Club.
Welcome to the Tahibo Tea Club radio hour. My name is Milan Vukovic. I'm the founder of the Tahibo Tea Club. Without my father, John Vukovic, there would be no Tahibo Tea Club. My father was diagnosed with colon cancer that had spread to the pancreas in 1998 at the age of 86. He started receiving treatment at the Houston Medical Center, which is the biggest medical center in the world, bigger than Boston. Because the size of the tumor on my father's pancreas was the size of a half a brick, I was told that there wasn't anything they could do for my father, and that I needed to put my father's affairs in order since he had about 2 months to live. So, of course, I started planning a funeral. I called our friends and family and told them how grave the situation was, and told them that if they wanted to see Dad, they only had a couple of months, and they might want to do so now. One of the families that came to pay their last respects to my father came and brought Tahibo tea with them. They said Tahibo tea cured their brother from cancer. I looked at them incredulous, as if they were Martians or something. I mean, my dad was getting treated at the Houston Medical Center, and no one was saying anything other than to plan a funeral. And these people were telling me that the tea's going to cure my dad? But of course, I was polite to the people since they came to pay their respects. In any event, after they left, I cooked up the tea, and my father figured if he had 2 months to live, what's the difference if he's drinking the tea or water? He has to drink something anyway. So he's drinking the tea, and 2 months later, when they put him on a CAT scan machine, they thought their CAT scan machine was broken because they couldn't find the tumor on his pancreas that used to be the size of half a brick. So they said to my father, you know, the hospital right next door here at the medical center also has a CAT scan machine. Since you already drank the contrast dye, we'll phone them and you can walk over and they'll take a picture so you don't have to come back and do it all over again next week when we get our machine fixed. So my father walked next door, they took a picture, they couldn't find any cancer either. My father is now 86 years old, he's been cancer-free for over 20 years, and not only is he cancer-free, he's in such good health, he takes care of my garden and even mows my lawn. I mean, I'd be embarrassed about it if he didn't enjoy doing it, and I know it's good for him. Our customers always get a kick out of it when they ask me how my dad's doing, and I tell them as long as he's mowing my lawn, he must be doing pretty good. The tea's certainly been a blessing in my family's life, and God willing, our tea will have the same benefits for you, your family and friends, as it has for mine and so many others. Not a week goes by that someone doesn't call in with a truly miraculous recovery. Bone cancer, brain cancer, breast cancer, prostate cancer, mesothelioma, leukemia, diabetes, you name it. And not a day goes by that someone doesn't call in with some type of a success, whether it's just beating toenail fungus. Well, toenail fungus may not be imminently life-threatening, but if you have it, you don't like it. The Tahibo tree is an amazing tree. It never gets sick, never gets infected, and never gets infested. As a result, the highest potency Tahibo comes from the inner bark of the tree, where the arterial and vein system, called the xylem and the phloem, in the tree reside, which brings nutrients to the rest of the tree. And that's why we only harvest mature trees over 40 years old in the rainforest of Brazil. The harvest method we use is to semi-strip some outer bark to get to the inner bark without cutting down the tree and allowing the tree to heal itself so they can be harvested again. It's also the only tree in the world the fungus doesn't grow on. So as a result, it naturally has antifungal, anti-infection, antiviral, antibacterial, anti-inflammation, and anti-parasite properties. These benefits go a long way to helping our immune system contend with a lot of things it normally has to contend with on a daily basis. Parasites would be something like stomach problems. Inflammation would be something like rheumatoid arthritis. Infection would be any infection from a tooth infection to a bladder infection. Viral would be something like herpes. Bacteria would be something like gum disease or stomach bacteria. And fungus would be something like toenail fungus or candida. But maybe more importantly, what the tea does is build the red corpuscles in the blood which carry oxygen to our organs and cells. Our organs and cells need oxygen to regenerate themselves. Our immune system needs oxygen to develop, and cancer happens to die on oxygen. So the tea is great for healthy people because it helps regenerate new cells. Everything from the cells in our skin so we look better, to the cells in our organs so they function properly, and it can truly be miraculous for somebody fighting a potentially life-threatening disease such as diabetes or cancer. In future programs, we'll discuss Tahibo tea versus AIDS, anemia, arthritis, asthma, bronchitis, other types of cancers, colitis, diabetes, diverticulitis, eczema, fungus, gastritis, gonorrhea, gout, HIV, impotence, infections, leukemia, lupus, Parkinson's, prostatitis, pyorrhea, rheumatism, ringworm, ulcers, virus, and yeast infections. One time a customer asked me, he said, boy, it sounds like the tea helps with everything. It does really help with a lot of different things, but for some things, for example, with the bones, calcium helps with the bones. The Tahibo helps with a lot of different things, but you need some other things also for a healthy diet. I'd like to talk a little about the proper preparation directions for Tahibo tea to be effective. Even though we call it tea, what you're actually preparing when you make it properly is a decoction. A decoction is just a fancy word for what our forefathers used to make when they used to take a root and cook it in order to release its beneficial properties. It's easy, but you don't steep it in hot water like regular leaf tea, but rather cook it like spaghetti. I'll tell you how easy it is to make just so you don't think you'll need a degree in physics, but you don't have to remember any of this because the directions, of course, are on the packages as well as in the literature you automatically receive with your order. You take a pot of water, bring it to a boil. Once the water is boiling, you toss in a tablespoon of tea for every 2 cups of boiling water. Cook it on high for 5 minutes, reduce the heat, and cook on simmer for an additional 15 minutes. Since our tea comes from the only tree in the world the fungus doesn't grow on, you can make a whole big batch, 10 or 20 cups at a time, leave it in the pot on the stove, and it'll stay good for 4 days without refrigeration. Put it in the fridge, and it'll stay good for 8 days with refrigeration, and you can drink it hot, room temperature, cold, or iced. The tea has a mild, pleasant flavor, kind of halfway between Lipton tea and green tea, but a little bit sweeter than either one of those. Our tea tastes so good that 95% of our customers drink it straight without putting anything else in it. Even teenagers drink it straight. So, you know it must taste pretty good. You can, however, add anything you want to the tea after you prepare it, such as lemon, for example. About the only thing we don't recommend to add to the tea is sugar. Not because it has any contraindications with our tea, but because sugar feeds virtually everything bad in our body, from fungus to diabetes to cancer. The other thing you can do to change the flavor and have some fun while cooking the tea, you can take any old fruit that you have on hand, like an apple, a pear, a peach, mango, whatever it is, slice it up, or take blueberries and crush them up and toss them into the boiling water at the same time you're tossing the tea in, and cook it with the tea. You can also take ginger or a cinnamon stick and cook it with the tea. And because the tea naturally has such a mild flavor, you'll immediately change the flavor to the fruit that you're using. This is especially useful when you're giving the tea to a child to drink, because an 8-year-old has not acquired a taste for any kind of tea, regardless how mild it tastes. Tahibo tea has no contraindications with any medications, so it can be taken on an empty stomach, a full stomach, with medications or without medications, and with or without other therapies. It also has no caffeine, so it can be drank all day and all night. In my family, we all drink it like water all day, every day. I only drink water 3 or 4 times a week when I get tired of drinking the tea.
Don't go away. We'll be right back with Milan and more from the Tahibo Tea Club radio show in just a minute. But for now, here's a word from our sponsors.
You're listening to the Tahibo Tea Club radio show. All packaging is in 1-pound packages. A 1-pound package of tea is $49.95, and that includes shipping. Tahibo Tea Club's original Pure Pau de Arco Super Tea comes from the only tree in the world that fungus does not grow on. As a result, it naturally has antifungal, anti-infection, antiviral, antibacterial, anti-inflammation, and anti-parasite properties. So the tea is great for healthy people because it helps build the immune system, and it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease due to an infection, diabetes, or cancer. The tea is also organic and naturally caffeine-free. A 1-pound package of tea is $49.95, which includes shipping. To order, please visit TahiboTeaClub.com. Tahibo is spelled T like Tom, A-H-E-E-B like boy, O, then continue with the word tea and then the word club. The complete website is TahiboTeaClub.com, or call us at 818-610-8088, Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. California time. That's 818-610-8088, TahiboTeaClub.com. Tahibo Tea Club's original Pure Pau de Arco Super Tea helps build red corpuscles in the blood, which carry oxygen to our organs and cells. Our organs and cells need oxygen to regenerate themselves. The immune system needs oxygen to develop, and cancer dies in oxygen. So the tea is great for healthy people because it helps build the immune system, and it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease due to an infection, diabetes, or cancer. The tea is also organic and naturally caffeine-free. A 1-pound package of tea is $49.95, which includes shipping. To order, please visit TaheeboTeaClub.com. Taheebo is spelled T like Tom, A-H-E-E-B like boy, O, then continue with the word tea and then the word club. The complete website is TaheeboTeaClub.com, or call us at 818-610-8088, Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. California time. That's 818-610-8088, TaheeboTeaClub.com.
Welcome back. This is Milan Vukovic, founder of the Taheebo Tea Club. My father's case was a case of colon cancer that had metastasized to the pancreas. I'd like to tell you about another cancer case about a man from Chicago. In 2009, he was diagnosed with brain cancer, specifically lymphoma of the brain. They immediately started chemo and radiation treatments, but his cancer kept getting worse. The chemo and radiation were not working for him, and they were making him sicker by the day because they're not easy treatments. By January 2010, he was literally on his deathbed. A friend of his who had heard about the tea called us and said, go ahead and send the tea to him in Chicago, even though it's probably too late for our friend, but for $34.95, it's certainly worth a try. So we went ahead, sent the tea to him in Chicago. We didn't hear from anyone until about 5 months later. This lady from Texas called to order the tea. We asked her how she heard about the tea, and she said, you know, my husband and I are originally from Chicago, and about 5 months ago when we were back visiting, our good friend Nick was dying from brain cancer. He was in such bad shape that my husband and I looked at each other and thought he was going to pass away that week, so we might as well stay in Chicago so we don't have to come back again the next week for a funeral. Well, Nick got the tea about that time and started drinking it, and he started getting a little bit stronger. My husband and I went back to Texas, and now 5 months later, Nick is visiting us. He looks better than you or I, so whatever it is that he's drinking, we want to drink too. I want to tell you that Nick at that time was 60 years old, and once he beat the cancer, he was feeling so good he got bored staying at home, so he went back to work full-time, and he's been cancer-free and in good health now for over 8 years and still continues to work full-time. I want to shift gears now and talk about diabetes. Oftentimes I get the question, how long does it take for the tea to work? If the tea is going to help, it's going to work rather quickly. In my father's case, it eradicated the tumor in exactly 2 months. In Nick's case with the brain cancer, it was about 3 to 4 months. Now, with diabetes and with all of the conditions with the tea, there's a healing process that's involved. Now, with diabetes, it's very easy to tell that the tea is working. Let's say, for example, if a diabetic is taking on average 40 units of insulin daily. They continue to take their insulin and they start drinking a tea. Since they're measuring the blood sugar on a daily basis to know whether to take 35 units or 40 units or 45 units of insulin, which makes a big difference, they'll notice typically that in 2 weeks, instead of needing 40 units of insulin, they only need 30 units of insulin. In 4 weeks, they'll notice they only need 20 units of insulin. In 6 weeks, they'll only need 10 units of insulin, and in 2 months, they won't need insulin at all. So there's a healing process involved because the tea helps the body to heal itself. And with different conditions, there's different healing times that are involved. With infections, for example, a tooth infection, you can get rid of faster than you can with penicillin. You can get rid of a tooth infection in a week. And what happens with a tooth infection is you start drinking a tea. Well, let's say you have a tooth infection and your head is throbbing like in a cartoons, like a bomb that's about to explode. You take a drink of the tea, you hold it in your mouth for 2 minutes, the pain will immediately go away. You can't even get rid of the pain that quickly with a Vicodin. Now, if you stop drinking the tea, at that point, you haven't knocked out enough bacteria, so the pain will come back in about 30 minutes. But you take another drink in about 30 minutes. If you take a drink of the tea, let's say 1 glass an hour for 4 hours, you'll completely get rid of the pain. But you haven't still knocked out all the bacteria, so if at that point you stop drinking the tea, the pain will come back in about 3 days. So you need to continuously drink the tea for 1 week in order to get rid of the pain. Kind of like when you go to a dentist and the dentist says, here's the penicillin, take 2 a day, even though you're going to feel great in a day, you have to drink it for 10 days or so in order to completely knock out the bacteria. Same thing with the tea. You need to completely drink the tea until you knock out the bacteria, which typically, in case of a tooth infection, takes about a week to 10 days. In other infections, it takes a little bit longer. So, for example, with a bladder infection or a urinary tract infection, it's common to take about 2 weeks to completely get rid of the infection, but you get relief like within 24 hours so that you don't have the pain associated. Now, talking about urinary tract infections, there are folks that get chronic urinary tract infections, and what happens is they go to the doctor gives them antibiotics, they drink the antibiotics for 2 weeks, and the infection goes away. A month later, the infection comes back, they go back to the doctor, they get some more antibiotics, and in 2 weeks the pain goes away. And what happens is they keep cycling on and off the antibiotics, which obviously is not a good thing to do, on an ongoing regular basis. On the other hand, they could just drink the tea. The tea is great for them for a lot of other health benefits as well. In 2 weeks, they'll be rid of their urinary tract infection, and they won't get the infection back.
You're listening to the Taheebo Tea Club radio show. All packaging is in 1 pound packages. A 1 pound package of tea is $49.95, and that includes shipping.
And 1 pound makes 300 8-ounce cups or glasses of tea. That's the equivalent of 12 cents a glass to make. So even if you're drinking 8 glasses a day, that's 96 cents a day to at least give yourself the opportunity for success. All orders ship immediately the same day. Orders in Los Angeles, where we're located, arrive in 1 day. Orders everywhere else arrive in 2 days. Taheebo tea is great for healthy people because it helps regenerate cells. Everything from the cells in our skin so we look better to the cells in our organs so they function properly. And it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease such as an infection, diabetes, or cancer. In Milan Vukovic's family, everyone drinks it every day like water, from his 20-year-old son to his parents, who are both now 86. For more information about Taheebo tea or to order, please visit our website, www.taheboteaclub.com. Taheebo is spelled T like Tom, A-H-E-E-B like boy. Oh, that's Taheebo, and then continue with the word tea, and then the word club. So the complete site is www.taheboteaclub.com. Or call today at 818-610-8088. That's 818-610-8088. LA offices open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Saturday, California time. That's area code 818-610-8088.
Taheebo Tea Club's original Pure Pau d'Arco Super Tea helps build red corpuscles in the blood which carry oxygen to our organs and cells. Our organs and cells need oxygen to regenerate themselves. The immune system needs oxygen to develop, and cancer dies in oxygen. So the tea is great for healthy people because it helps build the immune system, and it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease due to an infection, diabetes, or cancer. The tea is also organic and naturally caffeine-free. A 1 pound package of tea is $49.95, which includes shipping. To order, please visit TaheeboTeaClub.com. Taheebo is spelled T like Tom, A-H-E-E-B like boy, O, then continue with the word tea and then the word club. The complete website is TaheeboTeaClub.com, or call us at 818-610-8088, Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. California time. That's 818-610-8088, TaheeboTeaClub.com. Taheebo Tea Club's original Pure Pau d'Arco Super Tea helps build red corpuscles in the blood which carry oxygen to our organs and cells. Our organs and cells need oxygen to regenerate themselves. The immune system needs oxygen to develop, and cancer dies in oxygen. So the tea is great for healthy people because it helps build the immune system, and it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease due to an infection, diabetes, or cancer. The tea is also organic and naturally caffeine-free. A 1 pound package of tea is $49.95, which includes shipping. To order, please visit TaheeboTeaClub.com. Taheebo is spelled T like Tom, A-H-E-E-B like boy, O, then continue with the word tea and then the word club. The complete website is TaheeboTeaClub.com, or call us at 818-610-8088, Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. California time. That's 818-610-8088, TaheeboTeaClub.com.
Our tea has no contraindications with any foods, supplements, or medications. It's naturally caffeine-free. It can be drank in any quantity throughout the day by anyone over the age of 3. Since a baby's nutritional needs are unique, it's not recommended for babies or for women who are breastfeeding or pregnant. The tea has a number of natural benefits. Some of these include helping to control blood sugar, cleansing the blood of cholesterol, and controlling high blood pressure. If you're taking medications for any conditions, please keep taking your medication until your measurements are at a level where your doctor has told you to reduce the amount of medication. For example, if you're a diabetic, you should be taking your blood sugar level daily in order to know your correct dose of insulin. Now, besides people, the tea is also fantastic for animals. Everything from dogs to horses. One day we got a call from a customer who wanted to purchase the tea for the champion show dog who developed a skin disorder and for whom antibiotics had not worked. Exactly 3 weeks later, the customer called again to tell us the skin had completely cleared up and the dog was back at work as a model. I asked how they got the dog to drink the tea, and they said they simply replaced the water in his bowl with the tea. So it turns out that the dogs actually really like the tea. About 3 months later, another customer called and asked if we knew that dogs preferred our tea over water. We told him we'd heard that dogs like our tea, but why did he think the dogs preferred the tea over water? He said he had 3 dogs, one of which was sick. Since he had multiple dogs, he also had multiple water bowls, and he'd replaced the water in one of the bowls with tea, and that bowl was gone first every day. So since the dogs obviously were the only ones drinking out of the bowls, he knew that the dogs preferred the tea over water. So it's really easy to get a dog to drink the tea. All you do is swap out the water with the tea, and the dogs will immediately start drinking it. If by chance they don't, all you do is put 2-3 ice cubes in with the tea, and the dog will think it's dessert, and by tomorrow he'll be asking you for the tea. We have a lot of cases with dogs. One time, a very funny incident, a lady called in and said, she says, my friend has a Chihuahua, and she heard that your tea was good for dogs, and she started giving the tea to her Chihuahua, and her Chihuahua doesn't shed hair anymore. So since I have a Chihuahua, she gave the tea to me, and I'm giving it to my dog, and I'll be darned, my Chihuahua doesn't shed hair anymore. And I don't know anything about Chihuahuas. We have a Siberian Husky, so I said, did Chihuahuas really shed a lot? She says, oh yeah, they typically shed like crazy. So about an hour later, a customer from Dallas called in, and I'm talking to her on the phone, and I says, I learned something new about our own tea today, and I told her the Chihuahua story. And she says to me, you didn't know that? And I said, well, no, I don't know anything about Chihuahuas. She said, well, she says, you've never seen me, she says, because I'm in Dallas, she says, but I've been a customer of yours now for about 2 years, and before I started drinking your tea, I have long hair. Before I started drinking your tea, I used to lose a lot of hair when I was brushing my hair and when I was showering. Since I started drinking your tea, I hardly lose any hair at all, and not only that, my fingernails are strong like concrete. I'd like to shift gears again if I can and talk a little bit more about infections. A man went to visit a dentist for a tooth infection. The dentist gave him a prescription for penicillin to knock the bacteria out and a prescription for Vicodin to kill the pain. He sped over to the drugstore, picked up the prescriptions, and couldn't wait to get home to take the pills since his head was throbbing as if it was going to explode. On his way home, he called a friend from his car and was explaining to him what a world of hurt he was in. The friend told him to swing by his place and he'd get rid of the pain in exactly 2 minutes. He was told that not even the Vicodin would kick in that fast and that he really wanted to get home to get rid of the pain as soon as possible and take the Vicodin and the penicillin. Well, the friend said, you've already picked up the pills from the pharmacy, so you've got them with you. If the Tahibo tea I'm going to give you doesn't work, then start popping the pills. He went over to his friend's house. His friend had him take a drink of the tea and told him to hold in his mouth over the tooth that was infected for a couple of minutes before swallowing. The pain went away. He explained to his friend, though, that until enough bacteria was knocked out, which requires drinking 5 or 6 glasses of tea in the span of 3 or 4 hours, that the pain would come back in about 30 minutes. But since he's drinking the tea during this time anyway, to simply take a drink of the tea and hold it in his mouth again for 2 minutes before swallowing, and the pain will go away. Unbelievably, this is exactly what happened.
Want to learn more? Check out our podcast only on the iHeartRadio app. The Tahibo Tea Club radio show is now available on demand 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just open up your iHeartRadio app and search Tahibo, T-A-H-E-E-B-O, and start streaming today. Our podcast will let you listen to people throughout the country who have shared their real-life stories on the successful results they've had using Tahibo tea. The Tahibo Tea Club radio show, now available as a podcast on the iHeartRadio app.
You're listening to the Tahibo Tea Club radio show. All packaging is in 1 pound packages. A 1 pound package of tea is $49.95, and that includes shipping.
And 1 pound makes 300 8-ounce cups or glasses of tea. That's the equivalent of 12 cents a glass to make. So even if you're drinking 8 glasses a day, that's 96 cents a day to at least give yourself the opportunity for success. All orders ship immediately the same day. Orders in Los Angeles, where we're located, arrive in 1 day. Orders everywhere else arrive in 2 days. Tahibo tea is great for healthy people because it helps regenerate cells. Everything from the cells in our skin so we look better to the cells in our organs so they function properly. And it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease such as an infection, diabetes, or cancer. In Milan Vukovic's family, everyone drinks it every day like water, from his 20-year-old son to his parents, who are both now 86. For more information about Tahibo tea or to order, please visit our website, www.tahiboteaclub.com. Tahibo is spelled T like Tom, A-H-E-E-B like boy. Oh, that's Tahibo, and then continue with the word tea, and then the word club. So the complete site is tahiboteaclub.com.
Tahibo Tea Club's original Pure Pau Arco Super Tea comes from the only tree in the world that fungus does not grow on. As a result, it naturally has antifungal, anti-infection, antiviral, antibacterial, anti-inflammation, and anti-parasite properties. So the tea is great for healthy people because it helps build the immune system, and it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease due to an infection, diabetes, or cancer. The tea is also organic and naturally caffeine-free. A 1 pound package of tea is $49.95, which includes shipping. To order, please visit TahiboTeaClub.com. Tahibo is spelled T like Tom, A-H-E-E-B like boy, O, then continue with the word tea and then the word club. The complete website is TahiboTeaClub.com, or call us at 818-610-8088, Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. California time. That's 818-610-8088, TahiboTeaClub.com. Tahibo Tea Club's original Pure Pau Arco Super Tea helps build red corpuscles in the blood, which carry oxygen to our organs and cells. Our organs and cells need oxygen to regenerate themselves. The immune system needs oxygen to develop, and cancer dies in oxygen. So the tea is great for healthy people because it helps build the immune system, and it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease due to an infection, diabetes, or cancer. The tea is also organic and naturally caffeine-free. A 1 pound package of tea is $49.95, which includes shipping. To order, please visit TahiboTeaClub.com. Tahibo is spelled T like Tom, A-H-E-E-B like boy, O, then continue with the word tea and then the word club. The complete website is TahiboTeaClub.com, or call us at 818-610-8088, Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. California time. That's 818-610-8088, TahiboTeaClub.com.
Now, as I mentioned earlier, since our tea comes from the only tree in the world the fungus doesn't grow on, it naturally has antifungal, anti-infection, antiviral, antibacterial, anti-inflammation, and anti-parasite properties. And so included with every order, we automatically include literature about the tea, because typically folks will primarily buy the tea for one primary reason, whether it's cancer or whether it's diabetes or whether it's an infection or whatever the case is. And then oftentimes they'll call back and say, this is really truly unbelievable. This also helped me with my rheumatoid arthritis or something of that nature or something different. One time I got a phone call from a man in Florida who's a customer of ours, and he says, Milan, there's something you didn't tell me about the tea. And I go, really? What's that? So, well, he says, I'm an older man. I have toenail fungus. My toenail fungus is completely gone. My toes are now the only beautiful thing in my body. And I go, well, of course, the tea naturally has antifungal properties. It comes from the only tree in the world that fungus doesn't grow on. And he says, well, that's fantastic. And I said, well, yeah, because, I mean, the only thing we talked about when you called in was with regards to your lung cancer. And as it happened, the man had lung cancer for 18 years, and he was receiving radiofrequency ablation for his lung cancer. And when he first drank, and after 18 years, he says, the ablation works. He says, you can smell your own flesh burning. He says, literally, he says, and after 18 years, there's nothing left on my lungs to burn out, he says. So he says, I don't really believe in things like your tea, he says, but it doesn't cost very much, so go ahead and send me the tea. So we did. And he called back about 3 weeks later, and he says, if somebody would have told me that a $35 bag of tea would get rid of my pain in 5 days, I'd have said you're crazy, because I was taking 10 narcotic pills daily to mitigate the pain, and I never really did. And after 5 days, my pain went away, and I was telling my friends that this is unbelievable. I'm drinking this tea, and the pain associated with my cancer is gone. And my friend said, oh, man, it's got to be in your head. He says, that's why I waited 3 weeks to give you a call back. It's not in my head. The pain's gone. If you'd like more information about Tahibo tea, or you'd like to talk to us, just give us a call. We're located in Los Angeles. Our office hours are 9 to 5 California time, Monday through Saturday. Our telephone number is 818-610-8088. And of course, you can also get a lot more information on our website, www.tahiboteaclub.com. And the only tricky thing is to spell Tahibo, which is spelled TAHEEBO, and then continue with the word TEA, club.club.com. So the complete website is www.tahiboteaclub.com, and you'll get more information there. And of course, we welcome you to give us a call, because as you can tell, we learned a lot about our own products from customers calling us in with regards to their dogs, with regards to toenail fungus, with regards to diabetes, and with regards to all type of different cancer cases. And once again, our telephone number is area code 818-610-8088.
Don't go away. We'll be right back with Milan and much more from the Tahibo Tea Club radio show in just a minute. But first, a word from our sponsors.
You're listening to the Tahibo Tea Club radio show. All packaging is in 1 pound packages. A 1 pound package of tea is $49.95, and that includes shipping.
And 1 pound makes 300 8-ounce cups or glasses of tea. That's the equivalent of 12 cents a glass to make. So even if you're drinking 8 glasses a day, that's 96 cents a day to at least give yourself the opportunity for success. All orders ship immediately the same day. Orders in Los Angeles, where we're located, arrive in 1 day. Orders everywhere else arrive in 2 days. Tahibo tea is great for healthy people because it helps regenerate cells. Everything from the cells in our skin so we look better to the cells in our organs so they function properly. And it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease such as an infection, diabetes, or cancer. In Milan Vukovic's family, everyone drinks it every day like water, from his 20-year-old son to his parents who are both now 86. For more information about Tahibo tea or to order, please visit our website, www.tahiboteaclub.com. Tahibo is spelled T like Tom, AHEEB like boy. Oh, that's Tahibo, and then continue with the word tea, and then the word club. So the complete site is www.tahiboteaclub.com, or call today at 818-610-8088. That's 818-610-8088. LA offices open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Saturday, California time. That's area code 818-610-8088.
Tahibo Tea Club's original Pure Pouty Arco Super Tea comes from the only tree in the world that fungus does not grow on. As a result, it naturally has antifungal, anti-infection, antiviral, antibacterial, anti-inflammation, and anti-parasite properties. So the tea is great for healthy people because it helps build the immune system, and it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease due to an infection, diabetes, or cancer. The tea is also organic and naturally caffeine-free. A 1 pound package of tea is $49.95, which includes shipping. To order, please visit TahiboTeaClub.com. Tahibo is spelled T like Tom, AHEEB like boy, O, then continue with the word tea and then the word club. The complete website is TahiboTeaClub.com, or call us at 818-610-8088, Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. California time. That's 818-610-8088, TahiboTeaClub.com.
Welcome back to the Tahibo Tea Club radio show. Our tea is effective against all types of cancers because it works through the bloodstream. And of course, cancer cells need blood to get to them just as healthy cells do. The big difference being is that cancer cells work in an anaerobic environment or live in an anaerobic environment, which means they live in the absence of oxygen and they get their energy from sugar instead of from oxygen like healthy cells do. But specifically now, I'd like to devote our attention to prostate cancer because 80% of men are going to contract prostate cancer by the time they turn 80 years old. And from the cancer cases that we have, of course, because so many men get prostate cancer, we have more successful prostate cancer cases than any other cases just because they're the most prevalent. I'd like to tell you about a couple of those cases. I got a phone call a couple of weeks ago from a man in Phoenix, and he says to me, he says, I don't know if you remember speaking to me 4 months ago or not, he says, but I had prostate cancer that was aggressively metastasizing through my whole body, my bones, everywhere, and you told me to drink at least 8 glasses of Tahibo tea a day or more, as much as I could humanly stand. So I literally took that to heart, and I was drinking a gallon a day, which is 16 cups or more, he says. I was drinking so much of your tea that sometimes I was drinking a tea and having to go pee at the same time. But I'll tell you what, in 4 months, I don't have any more cancer. Now, in the informational literature that we automatically include with every order, it says, please give us a call to tell us about your case so that we can help more people. Well, one day I got a call from a man in Beaumont, Texas, and he says to me, he says, I've been a customer of yours, he says, for 5 years now, he says, and in your booklets it says to give you a call to tell you about your case, so I'm calling to give you an update. I go, fantastic, please tell me. He says, well, he says, 5 years ago I had prostate cancer and my PSA level was 1200. So now I'm thinking, I don't understand this man's Southern Texas accent from Beaumont, Texas. So I say to him, you mean 120? Because we'd never had anybody previous to that had more than 550. He says, no, 1,200. My PSA level was so high, they didn't want to give me any treatment. And he says, they're going to give you treatment. He says, whether it's going to work or not, just to collect on the money. So I had no other choices, and I started drinking your tea, and not only am I still alive 5 years later, my PSA level is now 1.25. So last October, a man from Saskatchewan, Canada calls up, and he says to me he's got prostate cancer. So I'm telling him about the Beaumont prostate cancer case, the 1200 case, and he says, that's nothing. He says, my prostate PSA level is 2100. I said, oh my God, you have to promise to call me back. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to go ahead and write down your name and number on a yellow sticky and stick it on my computer. If I don't hear back from you, I'm going to call you myself to find out what happened. Well, a month or so ago, we got an email from him, and he says, I started drinking your tea in October, and I'm getting my PSA checked every 2 months, and at the 2-month mark, my PSA level dropped from 2100 to 100. At the 4-month mark, my PSA level dropped from 100 to 10. And now, at the 6-month mark, my PSA level is 1.75. So it's truly gratifying to hear from customers on an ongoing basis, and very humbling because all we do is harvest the original tea. We don't put any fillers in it, and it's just as God had meant the plant to be. Now, the only secret to success with our tea, and the great thing is it tastes great, is volume of consumption. So you want to make certain that if you are fighting a potentially life-threatening disease, it's a race. You need to beat it before it beats you. So you want to be drinking the tea like water, or instead of water, 8 glasses a day or more, which is easy to do since it has a really mild, pleasant flavor. You can take it on an empty stomach, a full stomach, with medication, without medication, and it doesn't have any caffeine, so you can drink it all day, all night.
Tahibo Tea Club's original Pure Pau de Arco Super Tea helps build red corpuscles in the blood which carry oxygen to our organs and cells. Our organs and cells need oxygen to regenerate themselves. The immune system needs oxygen to develop, and cancer dies in oxygen. So the tea is great for healthy people because it helps build the immune system and it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease due to an infection, diabetes, or cancer. The tea is also organic and naturally caffeine-free. A 1-pound package of tea is $49.95, which includes shipping. To order, please visit TaheeboTeaClub.com. Taheebo is spelled T like Tom, A-H-E-E-B like boy, O, then continue with the word tea and then the word club. The complete website is TaheeboTeaClub.com or call us at 818-610-8088, Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. California time. That's 818-610-8088, TaheeboTeaClub.com.
I'd also like to talk a little bit about my least favorite cases that I hear about, and also my favorite cases that I hear about. Now, my least favorite cases that I hear about are people that previously had cancer of some type 3, 4, 5 years ago, and they were told that they're all clear from cancer. And now, 4 or 5 years later, the cancer has returned. And I'm thinking, oh my God, if they just knew about the tea and they drank the tea, there's a good possibility the cancer would not have come back. Now, when a person has gone through the treatments, they're all really harsh. Surgery's not easy, radiation's not easy, and chemotherapy's not easy. And they've exhausted all those treatments and gotten a clean bill of health. Well, what it means when they say that you're all clear from cancer is they just don't see cancer cells. Now, because all of us have cancer cells in us, it's just that our body and our immune system can keep those cancer cells at check. So obviously somebody who has had cancer before, has a much more likelihood that the cancer will come back than somebody who's never had cancer before. So I emphasize to everybody that drinks our tea, once you do get a clean bill of health, whether with our tea or without our tea, please continue drinking our tea after, because you don't want to have to go through radiation, chemotherapy, or surgery again. Now, my favorite cases are when I get calls from customers who have been diagnosed with cancer, and they start drinking the tea right away as soon as they're diagnosed. And oftentimes it takes conventional medicine 2-3 months to get around to starting treatment, either because they need to get insurance approval from the insurance company, or they need to decide which form of treatment they're going to take, whether they'll do surgery first or they'll do chemotherapy first, or whatever the case is. In the meantime, the customer has ordered the tea and has started drinking it. And 2.5 months later, when they get around to doing something, there's no cancer anymore. I just got a phone call the other day from a lady in North Carolina, and she says, my husband got diagnosed with lung cancer 2.5 months ago. And we heard about your tea, and we ordered the tea right away, and he started drinking it immediately. And 2 days ago, he was scheduled for a biopsy. So I called my sister and asked her to come over and go with me to the hospital, because it's a day procedure, the biopsy is, and that way she could wait with me and keep me company while we waited for my husband. So we went ahead and checked my husband into the hospital, and we found out where the cafeteria was and where to get some water, and got comfortable in the waiting room. And no sooner had we got comfortable in the waiting room than the nurse came out and she says, "Oh my God, there's nothing to biopsy." So those are my favorite cases, and we get those cases all along. So it doesn't matter whether you start drinking a tea before you start therapy or during therapy, or the reason we also have a lot of miraculous cases is that people go through all of the therapies, and at some point the doctors will say, "Hey, listen, we've tried our best, but unfortunately, if we give you any more chemo, we're going to hasten your demise rather than help you, and you have 6 weeks to live." And at that point, if a person starts drinking a tea and they're not doing anything different, obviously the tea might be helping them, and we're just truly gratified when that happens. Now, another great case from one of our customers that's been a customer for 5 years. She calls to reorder, and I see that she's been a customer of ours for 5 years. And I said, can you tell me the primary reason why you're drinking a tea? She says, yes. She says, in the promotional booklets that you always have, the informational booklets that you include whatever you order. I says, yes. She says, right there in the staple page where the middle of the booklet is, when you open it up like a sandwich, you have about 30 things listed that the tea is good against. I go, yeah. She says, I don't want to get any of those things. I'm 79 years old, and I don't take any pills, and all I do is drink the tea, and I look like I'm 60. And she says, that's the way that I want to keep it. And I said, well, that's fantastic. I said, a lot of people need to know that as well, that it's great as a health maintenance to drink the tea. She says, of course, she says, it's too late to plant a garden once you're hungry. So, in that being said, please go ahead and enjoy the tea. It tastes great, and God willing, our tea will have the same benefits for you that it's had for my family and so many others.
You're listening to the Taheebo Tea Club radio show. All packaging is in 1 pound packages. A 1 pound package of tea is $49.95, and that includes shipping.
And 1 pound makes 300 8-ounce cups or glasses of tea. That's the equivalent of 12 cents a glass to make. So even if you're drinking 8 glasses a day, that's 96 cents a day to at least give yourself the opportunity for success. All orders ship immediately the same day. Orders in Los Angeles, where we're located, arrive in 1 day. Orders everywhere else arrive in 2 days. Taheebo tea is great for healthy people because it helps regenerate cells. Everything from the cells in our skin so we look better to the cells in our organs so they function properly. And it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease such as an infection, diabetes, or cancer. In Milan Vukovic's family, everyone drinks it every day like water, from his 20-year-old son to his parents, who are both now 86. For more information about Taheebo tea or to order, please visit our website, www.taheboteaclub.com. Taheebo is spelled T like Tom, A-H-E-E-B like boy. Oh, that's Taheebo, and then continue with the word tea and then the word club. So the complete site is www.taheboteaclub.com, or call today at 818-610-8088. That's 818-610-8088. LA offices open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Saturday, California time. That's area code 818-610-8088.
Taheebo Tea Club's original Pure Pau d'Arco Super Tea helps build red corpuscles in the blood, which carry oxygen to our organs and cells. Our organs and cells need oxygen to regenerate themselves. The immune system needs oxygen to develop, and cancer dies in oxygen. So the tea is great for healthy people because it helps build the immune system, and it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease due to an infection, diabetes, or cancer. The tea is also organic and naturally caffeine-free. A 1 pound package of tea is $49.95, which includes shipping. To order, please visit TaheboTeaClub.com. Taheebo is spelled T like Tom, A-H-E-E-B like boy, O, then continue with the word tea and then the word club. The complete website is TaheboTeaClub.com, or call us at 818-610-8088, Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. California time. That's 818-610-8088, TaheboTeaClub.com.
Thank you for listening. The Taheebo Tea Club is a labor of love, life, and health. We only sell pure Pau d'Arco bark to make Taheebo tea. After my father's miraculous recovery from colon pancreatic cancer, I was buying the tea where I could find it and when I could find it. Problem was, even here in the United States, the tea wasn't easy to find, and when I did find it, oftentimes the quality was poor, sometimes it wasn't even the right tea, and invariably the directions to prepare it were wrong. Steep it. Well, you're not going to get very much if you soak wood for 5 minutes. So my friends and I decided to start the Taheebo Tea Club as a source of only one product, pure Pau d'Arco Taheebo tea. Our club is the best club in the world. We have no application, no membership dues, and no meetings. You only receive a newsletter or email from us when we have something new to report. To that extent, we would like to ask for your help. The only way we can help more people is to hear from your experiences. People with leukemia would like to hear about leukemia. People with prostate cancer would like to hear about prostate cancer. People with diabetes would like to hear about diabetes. And people with infections would like to hear about infections. Please call us or email us to let us know. You just might help save a life.
oftentimes I get the question from people whether if they're healthy they can drink the tea. Well, since one of the main properties of the tea is that it builds the red corpuscles which bring oxygen to our organs and cells, it's absolutely fantastic for healthy people. We have so many stewardesses drinking it because they don't want to get sick. I mean, they're floating around in an aluminum can, breathing other people's germs, and then they don't want to catch colds, flus, whatever the case is, so they drink the tea. I get phone calls, oftentimes very funny ones, from people that have landed at different airports around the world and telling me that this is truly amazing. I was on a plane and I was coughing, and the stewardess said as soon as I got off, I had to phone you to get some of your Tahibo tea. So the tea is used by a lot of athletes for faster muscle regeneration because of the oxygen. It's also used by a lot of folks in the entertainment industry, for example, that can't afford to get sick. These days, a diva gets $1,000 for a front row seat. If the diva's not singing, you're going to get your money back. In any event, the tea is great for healthy people and can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease. God willing, our tea will do for your family and friends the same as it's done for mine and so many others. This is Milan Vukovic, founder of the Tahibo Tea Club. You've been listening to the Tahibo Tea Club radio hour. Tune in at the same time next week. We'll be talking about a lot of different cases. We'll also have other customers on the line that have used the tea. And as I mentioned earlier, God willing, it'll have the same benefits for you and your family. Thank you for listening.
Want to learn more? Check out our podcasts only on the iHeartRadio app. The Tahibo Tea Club radio show is now available on demand 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just open up your iHeartRadio app and search Tahibo, Taheebo, and start streaming today. Our podcast will let you listen to people throughout the country who have shared their real-life stories on the successful results they've had using Tahibo tea. The Tahibo Tea Club radio show, now available as a podcast on the iHeartRadio app.
You're listening to the Tahibo Tea Club radio show. All packaging is in 1 pound packages. A 1 pound package of tea is $49.95, and that includes shipping.
And 1 pound makes 308 ounce cups or glasses of tea. That's the equivalent of 12 cents a glass to make. So even if you're drinking 8 glasses a day, that's 96 cents a day to at least give yourself the opportunity for success. All orders ship immediately the same day. Orders in Los Angeles, where we're located, arrive in 1 day. Orders everywhere else arrive in 2 days. Tahibo tea is great for healthy people because it helps regenerate cells. Everything from the cells in our skin so we look better to the cells in our organs so they function properly. And it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease such as an infection, diabetes, or cancer. In Milan Vukovic's family, everyone drinks it every day like water, from his 20-year-old son to his parents who are both now 86. For more information about Tahibo tea or to order, please visit our website, www.tahiboteaclub.com. Tahibo is spelled T like Tom, A-H-E-E-B like boy. Oh, that's Tahibo, and then continue with the word tea and then the word club. So the complete site is www.tahibot
with the word tea and then the word club. The complete website is tahiboteaclub.com, or call us at 818-610-8088, Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. California time. That's 818-610-8088, tahiboteaclub.com. Tahibo Tea Club's original Pure Pau d'Arco Super Tea helps build red corpuscles in the blood which carry oxygen to our organs and cells. Our organs and cells need oxygen to regenerate themselves. The immune system needs oxygen to develop, and cancer dies in oxygen. So the tea is great for healthy people because it helps build the immune system, and it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease due to an infection, diabetes, or cancer. The tea is also organic and naturally caffeine-free. A 1 pound package of tea is $49.95, which includes shipping. To order, please visit tahiboteaclub.com. Tahibo is spelled T like Tom, A-H-E-E-B like boy, O, then continue with the word tea and then the word club. The complete website is tahiboteaclub.com, or call us at 818-610-8088, Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. California time. That's 818-610-8088, tahiboteaclub.com.
NBC News Radio, I'm Lisa Taylor.